these the services here, there can be a company that I would trust on private information on myself, for example, on where I move and where I am and so on. But what about security breaches? So can I, because I cannot trust any company for their security to be absolute.
I have recently written an article in the blog on that any information that's digitally recorded is likely to be not secret if it's visible to at least one person. So if you record information that's not visible, and I think we have a lot of this, you may be on the safe side. But the moment you have, we had in Germany this interesting case where the German state got offered stolen data from Swiss banks. So basically somebody worked in a Swiss bank and made a copy of customer records of people who didn't pay apparently taxes in Germany and offered this to the state, and that created a lot of discussion. But if you look into this, copying sort of a lot of information, basically copying 10,000 customer data would have taken 100 years ago 14 nights probably in the basement scribbling. And now it's sort of instant by copying on the USB stick, and in 10 years time when we have memory devices, varying memory devices, you probably have to control always that a person switch off their memory device while they're looking at something, and that's not going to happen. So I would guess everything we record digitally, which is available to an individual, may not be guaranteed to be private in the end. And I think there may be technical solutions, but I haven't seen them yet. And I think this would change our whole society. It's not sort of the same society we have at the moment. You're shaking your head, so you're not convinced?
I don't think people will accept that.
I'm completely with you. I think people will have huge problems with that. But I don't really see a good technical solution for it, other than sort of not allowing certain technologies in private hands. So basically, the moment you allow people to have programmable devices, you're in trouble. So we may have the decision as a society to disallow programmable devices.
Like synesthesia, software music. You mentioned Maslow's hierarchy, but it's just very bad science because it's based on so-called research on his friends, and his friends were very special. I think most people doesn't fit on that picture.
So obviously there is also, in our courses we usually use Max Neef, which is sort of a more detailed thing. But I think going back to the Maslow, it's probably not very good science, but it explains a lot of things we are seeing. So if you look at things like Facebook, and if you look at how self-esteem is explained, I think that fits very well. If you look at applications with communication, so I think Maslow is certainly sort of very much abstracted. I agree on that completely, and there is sort of much more sort of work that digs much deeper into human needs. But what I argue is we should look at really basic human needs from this perspective, rather than at looking sort of at people, what do they need immediately in a direct. I think we see from an HCI perspective, if we do a version 2 of something, doing user research is extremely valuable and works extremely well. If we do version 0 of something, or 0.1, basically something very new, it's really, really hard to get it from the user what they want. And therefore, I would argue that even Maslow, if it's very sort of, I agree, it's sort of not very deep, not very scientific, but it gives a good inspiration, and we have tried this with students in project. It works, it gives people sort of a mindset, oh, what is important to people? Oh, it's their personal security, their personal safety. It's very, very obvious concepts in there. And I think if it's, for us, it doesn't really matter where it's in the hierarchy. If it's in there, it's quite likely that humans are liking it.